What if the daughter of a princess chose muddy boots over ball gowns? Behind the quiet hedgerows of Aston Farm, a royal legacy unfolds, not in diamonds or tiaras, but in hay-scented barns, well-worn saddles, and the laughter of 3 children chasing ponies. This is the world of Zara Tindall, where blue blood meets countryside grit. Today, we're stepping inside the gates, not just to see her home, but to discover a lifestyle powered by passion, horses, and heart. She was born in the spotlight, but chose to run toward the finish line, not the throne. On May 15, 1981, Zara Ann Elizabeth Phillips entered the world in the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital, the same corridor that echoed with royal footsteps for generations. Her uncle, then Prince Charles, suggested her name. Her godparents included the likes of Sir Jackie Stewart and Andrew Parker Bowles. But even with titles wrapped around her crib, Zara's path was never one of castles and curtsies. So what shaped her breakaway spirit? It began in Gloucestershire, where she spent her childhood riding ponies and racing around Gatcombe Park, the country estate of her mother, Princess Anne. There, in the rolling fields and rustic stables, she fell in love, not with pageantry, but with performance, not with tiaras, but with tack gear. At Beaudesert Park School, then Port Regis, and finally Gordonstown, the same boarding school her grandfather Prince Philip once attended, Zara was known not for her surname, but her sporting fire. She didn't just participate, she dominated. Hockey, gymnastics, athletics. She pushed, she led, she won. But it was in the saddle that Zara found her true calling. She went on to study physiotherapy at the University of Exeter, but her heart remained in the arena. After graduation, she committed full-time to her equestrian dreams. That's when the world stopped seeing her as just Princess Anne's daughter. Zara Tindall, the athlete, had arrived. In 2003, she signed a sponsorship deal with Cantor Index to fund her training, a bold and savvy move that made headlines. That same year, she finished runner-up at Burghley Horse Trials, signaling she was not just another royal dabbling in sport, but a real contender. But just like any athlete, her journey wasn't just medals and cheers. The 2004 Athens Olympics should have been her moment, but injury struck her beloved horse Toy Town during training. She was forced to withdraw. Devastated but undeterred, she came back stronger. Then came 2005, a golden year. At the European Eventing Championships, Zara and Toy Town took individual and team gold, a feat matched only by her mother 3 decades earlier. The victory wasn't just emotional, it was symbolic. She wasn't riding in anyone's shadow, she was forging her own legacy. Then, in 2006, she reached the peak. World champion at Aachen, she earned BBC Sports Personality of the Year, the same award her mother had won in 1971. That night, the applause wasn't just for the medals, but for a woman who had stepped outside of royalty and into the world arena by sheer grit. But success never shielded her from setbacks. She missed the 2008 Beijing Olympics after Toy Town got injured again. Then came a devastating fall in Pau, France, in 2008, where her horse died and she broke her collarbone. Still, she returned, competed, and kept rising. By 2012, she was standing on Olympic podiums at London 2012, holding a silver medal for Team GB, riding High Kingdom with quiet power and pride. She would go on to ride at World Championships, design her own line of equestrian wear, and even help lead British teams at elite events well into her 40s. So how did this royal rebel become one of Britain's most beloved equestrians? Because she never needed a title. She just needed a horse, a track, and a challenge. And today, as she rides across her own land at Aston Farm, the same fire burns in her eyes, a legacy built not by crowns, but by courage. But speaking of Aston Farm, what does a home look like when it belongs to a royal athlete, a mother of 3, and a woman who chose freedom over fame? Let's open the gates, shall we? Aston Farm. What happens when a royal family chooses not marble halls but a farmhouse? Nestled quietly on the lush estate near Gatcombe Park, just outside Minchinhampton, sits Aston Farm, the heartbeat of Zara and Mike Tindall's everyday life. From the outside, it may look like any charming English countryside property, but step closer and you'll feel it. This isn't just a house, it's a story. Aston Farm is where tradition shakes hands with comfort, where the smell of hay blends with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, and where history, family, and modern living coexist under a roof touched by rural magic. But let's take it one step at a time. We begin at the wrought iron gate, flanked by old oaks. Beyond lies a gravel drive, winding gently toward the main house. The building itself is classic Cotswold stone, sun-kissed and softened by ivy that wraps around the corners like an old friend. This is a place where muddy boots are welcome, where a golden retriever might greet you before the staff. Inside, the layout speaks of transformation, not just over time, but of values. In 2018, the Tindalls submitted plans to expand, and not for showy reasons. They weren't adding ballrooms or glass elevators, but a 2-story extension to include a new family kitchen, dining area, utility space, and most notably, a winter garden. Why a winter garden? Because here, family gathers around warmth, not spotlight. It's a sun-filled room where morning tea meets panoramic views of the paddocks, a space that reflects Zara herself, bright, practical, quietly elegant. From the kitchen, the open-plan flow leads into a living area bathed in light, dotted with rustic beams and soft tones. Think cream linens, wooden floors, and a fireplace that's more about stories than grandeur. But the heart of the home? That would be the party barn. Yes, Aston Farm has what the locals call a party shed, and it's no myth. This former hay barn has been lovingly restored into a social sanctuary. A high-ceilinged room with exposed beams, a full bar, catering facilities, and even a cinema-sized screen. Friends of the Tindalls describe it as the ultimate reunion space, where old rugby mates, equestrian champions, and royal cousins can gather without fanfare. It's not opulent, it's alive. Imagine Zara and Mike hosting close friends here. Music playing, kids laughing outside, the barbecue sizzling in the background. On the walls, you might find framed riding photos, perhaps a gold medal or two tucked between books and wine bottles. This isn't Buckingham Palace. This is home. Outside, the grounds stretch wide, seamlessly blending into the broader Gatcombe estate. There are riding trails, training paddocks, and plenty of open space where the children, Mia, Lena, and Lucas, can run wild. And yes, the horses live close. Because here, 4-legged family members are just as important. With an estimated value of $3 million, Aston Farm is not among the grandest royal estates. But perhaps that's the point. It's curated for living, not for lineage. A home built not for show, but for stories. And speaking of stories, this farm has quite the origin moment. It's said that Zara and Mike first met at a Sydney bar while both were traveling with their sports teams. But their real journey started here, at Aston Farm, the place they would eventually choose to raise their family. A place where muddy shoes outnumber high heels, where the fireplace burns year-round, where Olympic medals hang not in glass cases, but above a wooden mantle. So, how does a royal couple unwind from the pressure of public life? They come home to this. But Aston Farm is only half the story. Before they settled into this pastoral paradise, the Tindalls lived in a mansion that surprised many royal watchers, not for its grandeur, but for its simplicity. So, what does a pre-farm chapter look like for a couple who shuns the royal rulebook? Let's head to Cheltenham, and take a peek inside their first real estate choice as newlyweds. Mansion in Cheltenham. Before Aston Farm became their countryside kingdom, Zara and Mike Tindall quietly began their life together in a place that defied all royal expectations. A house with no guards, no security gates, no royal crests above the door. Just a 4-story Georgian townhouse in Cheltenham, painted in a soft white that blended in with the neighbors. But once you stepped inside, the story shifted. This wasn't an ordinary home. It was a masterclass in modern British elegance. Valued at around $4 million, the property boasted over 4,900 square feet of living space. Yet nothing about it screamed aristocracy. Instead, it whispered comfort, thoughtfulness, quiet pride. And maybe that's what surprised their friends the most. Why would a royal equestrian and a rugby world champion pick a home without high walls or private gates? Because Zara and Mike weren't chasing titles. They were building a life. Let's step inside, shall we? Through the front door, you're greeted by a wide hallway, dressed in neutral palettes and clean lines. To the left, a formal sitting room, where tradition meets relaxation. Think subtle grays, antique wood floors, and just enough royal charm to remind you who lives here. But it's the kitchen that steals the show. An open, airy space filled with light from oversized arched windows, featuring a glistening white island, double Gaggenau ovens, and sleek cabinetry that cost more than most people's cars. The range stove alone? Worth over $6,000. This is not just a place to cook. It's a place to gather, to laugh, to live. The Tindalls are known for hosting casual dinners with friends, family-style meals, where shoes are optional and the wine flows as easily as the stories. Next to the kitchen, you'll find a home cinema room, because even royalty enjoys a cozy movie night in. Plush velvet sofas, warm lighting, sound that wraps around you like a cocoon. It's not Versailles, it's better, because it feels real. Climb the original staircase and you'll discover a master suite with views of Cheltenham's leafy avenues, plus 6 other bedrooms ready to host children, guests, or the occasional royal cousin. And when it's time to unwind, there's a home gym with a hot tub, a sanctuary for Mike after a day of rugby commentary, or for Zara after hours in the saddle. There's no crown molding here, only moments. In the winter, the couple would gather around the marble fireplace, where a stylish log burner glows through the frosted windows. It's the kind of warmth that doesn't come from prestige, but from presence. And while many questioned their choice, no private gates, no royal security, Zara and Mike knew exactly what they were doing. They were buying freedom. Freedom to take their dog for a walk without being trailed. Freedom to raise their kids like any other British family. Freedom to step into town for coffee without flashbulbs. This house wasn't their forever home, but it was the one that taught them how to build one. Eventually, as their family grew and Zara's equestrian commitments deepened, the couple transitioned to the open fields of Aston Farm. But Cheltenham remains the prologue, a place where royal blood met domestic bliss. And behind the walls of that elegant white townhouse, they wrote the first chapters of a life lived on their own terms. So now that we've seen where they rest, what about how they ride? Let's take a spin through the countryside, Zara style. Because her collection of cars and horse boxes isn't just impressive, it tells the story of a royal on the move. You can tell a lot about a person by what they choose to drive. In Zara Tindall's case, her wheels reflect not a life of red carpets, but one of racecourses, school runs, muddy boots, and open country roads. Each vehicle in her collection speaks to a different chapter, a different role, a different rhythm. And together, they form the horsepower behind her royal lifestyle. Cars. Range Rover Sport. Tough, elegant, built to endure any British weather. The Range Rover Sport is Zara's daily chariot, rugged enough to conquer muddy farm roads after a morning ride, yet refined enough to pull up to a royal function without raising eyebrows. Under the hood lies a supercharged V6 or V8 engine, but Zara doesn't choose it for speed. She chooses it because it gets the job done. And on the days when she's towing tack gear or ferrying the kids from school to stable, this car becomes more than transportation. It becomes her shield, her office, her mobile command post. Land Rover Discovery. The name says it all. The Discovery is built for exploration, and Zara uses it exactly that way. Whether it's heading to training fields or countryside events, the Discovery delivers with confidence. Its 7-seat capacity makes it ideal for juggling family life and sporting demands. Fold-down seats mean there's room for saddlebags, helmets, muddy boots, or even a cheeky Labrador who refused to stay home. For Zara, this isn't luxury. It's logistics, wrapped in British engineering. Peugeot-based Overlander Horsebox. Now, this isn't just a vehicle. This is her mobile empire. The Peugeot-based Overlander Horsebox is where horses rest, tack is stored, and strategy is made. It's a literal home on wheels during cross-country competitions, complete with sleeping space, prep areas, and secure stalls for elite equine partners. It's here, inside the belly of this machine, that Zara finds calm before a course. It's also where some of her most personal moments happen. Phone calls with Mike, pep talks to her horses, quiet moments of solitude. Because every champion needs a base camp. Range Rover Vogue. Sometimes the moment calls for elegance. The Range Rover Vogue is less about rough terrain and more about refined arrival. With its plush interiors, whisper-quiet cabin, and polished silhouette, this is Zara's vehicle of choice for formal engagements, charity events, or royal gatherings where understated style says more than diamonds ever could. And yet, knowing Zara, the back seat might still hold a pair of riding boots, just in case. Jaguar XJ X308. This one's special, a nod to heritage. The Jaguar XJ, particularly the X308 model, is pure British nostalgia, a symbol of timeless design and smooth V8 power. It may not be the most practical choice for an equestrian, but it tells a different story, of late-night drives, of royal tradition, of owning something not for necessity, but for love. For Zara, it's a Sunday drive kind of car, a car that reminds her she's still part of a legacy, even if she lives far from the throne. Each of these vehicles plays a part in her story. Some carry tack and kids, others carry memories. But all of them speak one truth clearly. Zara Tindall isn't a royal because of what she wears or where she lives. She's a royal because of how she rides through life. And speaking of riding, building such a balanced life of freedom and family doesn't come cheap. So how does she fund this world of farms, horses, and horsepower? Let's take a look, not at a detailed financial report, but at the quiet power of her net worth. She doesn't wear a crown, she doesn't wave from palace balconies. And yet, Zara Tindall has quietly built a fortune worth an estimated $5 million. No royal allowance, no taxpayer-funded wardrobe, just grit, gold medals, and a relentless drive to live life her way. Her wealth wasn't inherited, it was earned. From Olympic podiums to brand collaborations, from muddy training fields to business boardrooms, Zara has turned her name into quiet capital. But this fortune isn't for show. It fuels her farm, her family, her freedom. So, how did she do it? To understand the woman behind the millions, we have to step into her other arena, the world of equestrian business, brand deals, and boardroom power moves. Business. What does a champion do when the race ends? If you're Zara Tindall, you build an empire beyond the saddle. Her first major business move came in 2010 with the launch of her own equestrian apparel line in partnership with Musto Outdoor Clothing. But this wasn't just a celebrity slap-on-the-label project. Zara was involved in the details, design, function, fabric. The name of the line? ZP176. It was her competition number the first time she represented Great Britain, a quiet tribute to where it all began. From rain-proof jackets to breathable riding pants, ZP176 became a trusted brand among young riders who admired not just her medals, but her authenticity. The line wasn't flashy, it was functional, just like the woman behind it. Then came something unexpected. In 2015, Zara entered the world of fine jewelry, collaborating with Australian designer John Kaleja to create a collection that married royal elegance with sporty boldness. Each piece was crafted to reflect elements of the equestrian world: reins, horseshoes, braided leather, reimagined in diamonds, sapphires, and white gold. It was bold, distinct, and undeniably Zara. But perhaps her most strategic move came not in fashion, but in sport governance. In 2019, she was appointed as a non-executive director of the prestigious Cheltenham racecourse, a role that placed her not just in the arena, but behind the curtain. Here, she wasn't competing. She was shaping the future of British equestrian sport. From sponsorship deals to public relations, Zara helped ensure that horse racing stayed relevant, accessible, and proudly British. And while others chase Instagram endorsements, Zara keeps her commercial ventures low profile, high impact. She doesn't sell products, she sells principles, performance, craftsmanship, purpose. And unlike many royals, she never leaned on her last name to make deals. Instead, she built a reputation of reliability as an athlete, as a brand partner, and as a leader in the sport she loves. So yes, the medals matter. But it's the business behind the brilliance that keeps the Tindall lifestyle galloping forward. Still, beyond the balance sheets and product lines, there's another side to Zara. A quieter one. Because for all the glory and gold, what does she give back? Let's step into the side of Zara Tindall that rarely makes the headlines. The woman who gives without needing applause. Philanthropy. It started with a gown. Not just any gown, but one Zara had worn to the London premiere of Seabiscuit, the very film that celebrates the power of horses to heal and inspire. In 2005, she quietly auctioned it off to raise funds for tsunami relief. There was no press tour, no dramatic headlines, just a woman who knew she could use her platform for something greater. And she never stopped. Over the years, Zara Tindall has woven philanthropy into every layer of her public life. But like everything she does, it's purposeful and deeply personal. Take her long-standing work with the Catwalk Trust, a charity focused on spinal cord injury research in New Zealand. Zara didn't just lend her name. She made visits, met patients, and advocated for better treatment. Or her quiet yet consistent support for Lucy Air Ambulance for Children, the UK's only dedicated neonatal and pediatric air transport service. For parents in crisis, that airlift can mean everything, and Zara helps make it happen. Her patronage extends to the Mark Davies Injured Riders Fund, supporting equestrians who, like her, have faced danger in the saddle. It's a cause that hits close to home. After all, she once broke her collarbone in a fall that claimed her horse's life. In 2006, she joined a charity day with Cantor Index, honoring the 658 employees lost during 9/11. In 2009, she played celebrity poker in Monaco to raise funds for Darfur. In 2011, she auctioned another gown for victims of the Christchurch earthquake, raising £22,000 in a single night. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, when fear gripped the nation, she didn't retreat behind estate gates. Instead, she joined the Equestrian Relief Initiative, helping provide PPE to NHS frontline workers. Her causes span continents, ages, and industries, but the theme is always the same: protecting the vulnerable, elevating the overlooked, healing through action. Even in her spare time, Zara shows up for charity races, hospital visits, and awareness campaigns, often slipping in and out without fanfare. She doesn't give because it's expected. She gives because she understands the fragility of life, because she's fallen and gotten back up. Her generosity doesn't shout, it whispers, and still, it echoes. But if you really want to see Zara Tindall at her most authentic, not as a medalist or a patron, but as a woman, you'll have to look at her private life. Because what happens behind the gates of Aston Farm may surprise you more than any podium ever could. Personal life. When the spotlight fades, when the competitions end, and when the royal headlines go silent, what's left? For Zara Tindall, it's a rhythm you won't find in tabloids. It's the sound of hooves on dewy grass, the clink of coffee cups at sunrise, the laughter of children echoing through wide-open fields. At home, Aston Farm isn't a retreat from life. It is life. Here, Zara and Mike Tindall, her husband of over a decade, raise their 3 children. Mia, the eldest, sharp-witted and confident. Lena, full of energy and curiosity. And Lucas, the youngest, often spotted toddling behind his big sisters in a pair of muddy boots. There are no nannies in designer uniforms, no formalities. Just 2 parents doing school runs, managing tantrums, prepping packed lunches, and occasionally sneaking in a glass of wine at the end of the day like every other mom and dad. Mike, former England rugby star, balances his media career with full-on dad duties. He and Zara often describe their partnership as a team, and it shows. Whether she's away at a competition or he's recording a podcast, there's always a sense of relay, of trust. They've weathered losses together, including Zara's 2 miscarriages, which they addressed with rare public honesty, breaking the silence many families endure alone. And through it all, they've protected something sacred: normalcy. At Aston Farm, the kids ride ponies, chase chickens, and climb trees. Zara tends her horses, gardens, and enjoys cooking Sunday roasts in the same Gaggenau oven that wowed guests back in Cheltenham. Evenings often end in the party barn, not with royal galas, but with close friends, a crackling fire, and stories that last into the night. Zara's social circle includes both world-class athletes and fellow mums from Gloucestershire's tight-knit community. Yes, you might spot a royal cousin at a summer barbecue, but just as likely it's the local vet or farrier sharing a pint. And yet, despite the rural grounding, Zara remains close to her royal roots. She's a godmother to Prince George, son of her cousin Prince William. She attends family occasions, royal weddings, and national events, but always returns to her home base, her sanctuary. She doesn't crave the stage, but she'll show up if it matters. In recent years, Zara and Mike have taken their children on holidays away from the cameras, ski trips in the Alps, boat rides off the British coast, walks in the Highlands, never announced, never photographed, just lived. She also remains dedicated to her horses, still riding, still competing, still waking before dawn to train in misty fields while the rest of the country sleeps. Some days her life feels royal, other days it feels radically ordinary, but every day it feels real. So, after everything we've seen, from medals to muddy boots, from charity galas to party barns, one question remains. What kind of legacy does a woman like Zara Tindall leave behind? What does it mean to be royal in the 21st century? For some, it's red carpets and diplomacy. For others, it's headlines and history. But for Zara Tindall, royalty is something quieter, something deeper, something lived, not displayed. She never held a royal title, never needed one. Her power doesn't come from protocols, it comes from presence. Presence in the saddle, in the mud, on the podium. Presence in motherhood, in business, in grief, in love. While others posed for portraits, she was wrapping ice packs around injured knees. While others delivered rehearsed speeches, she was hauling hay with bare hands and tired eyes. She is the granddaughter of a queen, the daughter of a princess, the godmother to a future king, and yet she chose a life where no one calls her Your Highness. They just call her Zara. The woman in breeches and boots, the competitor, the mother, the wife, the giver, the quiet force behind the roar of tradition. Her homes tell this story too. Cheltenham, where she began writing a new kind of royal script. Aston Farm, where every sunrise brings routine, every room tells a memory, and every hoofprint in the soil whispers a legacy being built, not inherited. She turned country lanes into runways, turned medals into meaning, turned her last name into a footnote, not a finish line. And in doing so, she has reminded us all that you can be born into legacy and still choose to create your own, that you can carry royal blood and still live with rural roots, that the road less trodden can still lead to greatness. If Zara Tindall's story inspired you, her strength, her choices, her life between gallops and goodnight kisses, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And tell us in the comments, would you trade palaces and titles for a quiet farm and a life lived on your own terms? Because in the end, maybe that's what true royalty looks like.